Hello, friends. Brian Shercliffe, Vitality Cincinnati, with the second part. Hopefully, with part one, you gave yourself a beautiful experience of being on the floor. And with part two, I'd just like to say a little bit more about Dr. Feldenkrais and Krishnamacharya and how they go together and how we let them speak together a little bit more at Vitality. So I'm going to share my screen here. Go. And so we might start to wonder, after you had that experience, like, how does this work? And if you think back to the experience, both Dr. Feldenkrais and Krishnamacharya, they both recognize that slow movement is what helps us to better notice distinctions. For Dr. Feldenkrais, this had to do with neuroplasticity, the ability to change one's whole life through movement, through becoming aware of oneself as we move. But for Krishnamacharya, he wasn't so interested in that. Maybe he had a different lens through which to look at it. And it was really for him about accessing these higher levels of awareness that he had seen written in all the yoga texts that maybe had been in some ways lost. And so he started slowing things down. And the great irony is both of them were interested in faster movement at first. So Dr. Feldenkrais was a judo expert, right? And Krishnamacharya is the one that designed that fast flow Ashtanga series, right? That Pattabhi Jois took around the world. But both of them come to this idea of got to slow things down. And it's kind of like, when you have a conversation with a friend in a very busy place, you might catch some of the words, you might catch some of the nuance of what they're saying, but there's so many other distractions, right? Lots of things that are happening maybe quickly around us. But if we were to have that conversation in a quieter place, maybe over a cup of coffee in a quieter place, and we can look at the person, we start to notice that there are other layers of meaning that we pick up, right? Their facial expressions, the pauses, when they get, their voice changes or even cracks a little bit, like where there's some meaning, some significant meaning, the tone that they use, all of that. And that's what Feldenkrais figured out that we could do through movement. Movement's the same way. If we just constantly move quickly, and there are times when we need to move quickly, right? But if we constantly move quickly, we start to miss something of life, right? Something about, being able to notice what's available there in that movement. Krishnamacharya onto the same thing. Something special with Dr. Feldenkrais is he started noticing that re-exploring developmental patterns was key to improving any movement. So things like pressing, like we just did in the first video, and rolling and sitting and scooting and crawling and climbing and standing and walking, that all these things, re-exploring them in slow, gentle, easy ways can begin to improve all of one's life, no matter what you want to do, even if it's well beyond these things that I just said. So say that you're a golfer, like I am and was, especially. By exploring these things, my golf game might improve, because my whole life is built on these primal developmental experiences that I may or may not have done all of them too, so exploring one of these that I never really did could bring me some benefit to improving the way I move and am on this planet, this gravity-rich planet. And in Vitality, we use the developmental moves to arrive at asanas or yoga shapes, the ones that Krishnamacharya created. The roots of yoga say very little about asana, matter of fact. So sometimes in our culture, asana is translated as poses. It's really a misnomer. Really the word is seat or a place to rest. We've translated it as shapes at Vitality. And if you kind of look at the roots of the tradition that we use in yoga, yoga trainings, especially the Bhagavad Gita, the oldest of the texts usually, that most trainings read, there's very little said about asana. It's really a book about improving our choices, right? Knowing what a choice is about, and even what a non-choice is about, what happens. And then down below, Barbara Stoller Miller's translation of Patanjali's Yoga Sutras, which she titles Yoga, the Discipline of Freedom, has only a couple lines about asana, one of which is to be like a snake on the water. To move like a snake on the water is the whole business of asana. So it's not so much these static poses, It has to do with movement, kind of like we did on the floor or on your bed just a little while ago. And then the later texts, the medieval texts, which are all here in this book by translations and commentaries by James Mallinson and Mark Singleton, The Roots of Yoga, and their beginnings of their Hatha Yoga project. There's very little to say about asana as well. There is some asana, but not a lot, not as much as we have today. So that maybe yoga was about something much more than just these fast things that we're doing. Maybe it's really more of a study of oneself or a discovery for oneself. So that brings us to our Vitality Yoga Circle and Training. What is it? Well, it is yoga inspired by Krishnamacharya and Dr. Feldenkrais. And it's meditation inspired by neuro-linguistic programming, often said NLP, and Vipassana style meditation. And Tanya's going to give a beautiful experience of NLP here coming up on Thursday, a couple days from now. And it is our training, our circle is 200 hours or more of experiences beginning June of this year, 2022. And you can take it for your own health, for your own curiosity, to get certified as a yoga teacher through our Yoga Alliance registered school. But what is it not? Our training is not a Feldenkrais training program. There are no awareness through movement lessons. We are using kind of the first ideas that inspired Dr. Feldenkrais's lessons. They're kind of the assumptions of the lessons in a sense, but they are definitely not the lessons themselves. You need to go to a Feldenkrais training program to study those. And it's also, what we're offering is also not a NLP training, right? It's just giving some tastes of these possibilities. Our 300-hour program, which is not what we're talking about today, but it will be offered in January of the next calendar year, 2023. And in that program, we do explore with the Alon's Bones for Life, kind of as a window to understanding asana in a sense. So this is right from Vitality's website. All right. So vitalitycincinnati.org/immersion/yoga. And how do you join us for this year for the 200-hour program? Well, today or as soon as possible, notify us through our website that you want to join this yoga circle. And we're going to save spots for 30 people, first come, first served. And then after you notify us that you want to do this, you need to do some things. So by June 15th, as I said, this is a tuition-free program, right? No tuition, but we are asking you to do something. Since we're offering this experience, we're asking you to give back by completing 40 hours of service in the community gardens, the farms, the farmers markets in your own neighborhood, and your friends can help. So for this first 40 hours, you can bring one friend, and for each hour that you both work together, you get an hour for your time and an hour for their time. So 2 hours through 1 hour of just being there together working. And once you notify us that you're going to be interested in this yoga circle, we're going to send you all kinds of ways to get plugged into community gardens, farms, farmers markets in your own neighborhood, and even especially the Gleaning Network that we've been helping with here in Cincinnati area. And on June 20th, we'll send you the Zoom links so that you can join the yoga circle in all of Vitality's classes, because all of Vitality's classes, all of our weekly drop-in classes, they're all available to you for free in exchange for your garden service. So we officially begin on June 26th. And since it's on Zoom, you can Zoom from anywhere in the world. And for those that are in Cincinnati area, we will have a few in-person opportunities, but they're not required for the program. Before October 1st, you need to complete an additional 60 hours of garden service in your own neighborhood, and you can bring more friends. So I've had some yoga teachers who've gotten it finished in one weekend by inviting all their friends to finish up that last batch of hours. In October and November, we ask you to teach 10 yoga or meditation classes by donation to family and friends. And then on December 1st, we ask you to make a donation to Vitality of any amount, so $1 to $1 million. And then December 4th is our graduation. We're very excited. And so Tanya Smith and I and everyone else who's involved in the program, we all donate our time to this program. So just as we donate our time, we ask you to donate your time by improving your own neighborhood and your own family's health, through these two give backs of garden service and sharing yoga and meditation. So, together we think we can all make a difference. It's easy to read the news these days and be very frustrated, right? By and begin to lose hope. And yet, if we begin to work together and share our gifts, maybe more becomes possible. Maybe hope becomes just a little bit more alive in our world. And so how could we do this? How could things improve? Well, in terms of food, local food requires less gasoline to get to us. It requires less packaging usually. Usually tastes a heck of a lot better. It's much more fresh. It is usually said to have more vitamins as a result of being much more fresh. So that's one gift. Growing food can be healing too. Just even having our hands in the earth. And if we don't like to have our hands in the earth, you can help out at farmers markets or help farmers in other ways. Just even being around food could be healing. And maybe even growing food in, easy ways, especially organic ways, could be good for the earth too. Using organic practices. And my goodness, sharing food together is healing, right? All the stories that come about, the laughter, being able to look into each other's eyes, all those things, some things that have even become, I don't know, maybe for some of us difficult post-pandemic or wherever we are in the pandemic, right? The ability just to slow down and be with each other and look in each other's eyes could be a great gift. And here's CJ, and you can discover more about our style of yoga by checking out our book, Yoga is the All, available at vitalitybuzz.org. And CJ is one of the authors, one of the many authors in that book, where we share our vision of what yoga is, kind of a little bit of what we talked about today in part 1 and part 2 of this video. So coming up here in just a couple days, Thursday, May 5th at 6 p.m., the great Tanya Smith will share some NLP style meditation via Zoom. So if you just reach out to me through vitalitycincinnati.org and I'll get you the Zoom links that you can join the party. And you're in for a treat. Tanya is a wonderful teacher. And we both graduated from Future Life Now's program taught by the great Larry Wells. So can't wait for Tanya to share her gifts, and can't wait to see you join us at some point to begin to explore this yoga circle with us this year and to begin to find out what could be possible for us, for all of us, as we begin to move and breathe and rest together and grow food together and share life together and begin to see just how much hope begins to bubble up all around the world through all of us offering our gifts. And let our gifts, our beginnings be a start to all this, right? And let's see what happens. Peace, 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 friends.